Alrighty friends, so in today's video I wanted to talk about two different things. The first being some super helpful rapier tech that I believe, especially if you are a newer player trying to jump into the rapier for the first time, is a very important thing to break down and understand and really get under your belt to start understanding and mastering the rapier. And then the second thing is more of a general question for PvP, which is how do I start, or how do I get better at PvP before I can PvP? And what I mean by that is in most games, there's is a pretty large gap that it seems, or there is, to overcome when you're a newer player, when you first jump into a game that especially has been out for a little while. Not only are you trying to overcome that knowledge barrier, try to learn everything else that everybody else already knows about the game, but on top of that, as much as I talk about gear not being everything in PvP, it definitely plays a huge role in PvP. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they are lying. Especially if you are newer and your gear is on the lower side, on the like mid or low 500s, it definitely can seem pretty hard or tough when trying to learn the game and getting too sharp for everything. So again, how do you kind of start to get ready or get comfortable for PvP before you can start PvPing? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the rapier is the evade reset. Now, the really cool thing about this game is I think I made my rapier guide almost 8 or 9 months ago now, and the stuff that I'm about to say is almost verbatim to what I said in that video way back then. The evade reset, and especially if you have been watching my videos for a lot of time, you've probably been hearing me say this term quite a bit. But if you don't know what I mean when I actually say the evade reset, it is just this combo here for the rapier. It's a infinite combo that you can do with evade and light attacks. It's the only weapon in the game that has a infinite combo like this. And this here is the thing that you really want to break down and understand and really get into muscle memory, because this is what opens up everything else for the rapier. Pretty much your damage, your combos, your defense, your movement, your aggression, all of that stems from the evade reset. And as you have seen, I have multiple builds that use the rapier, all with different weapons, and the way that I combo with all those weapons is different. But the core of all of those builds and how I achieve damage on the rapier is through this combo right here, the evade reset. Now, the way it's possible and the way it's done, it's all through crescendo. So it takes 3 light attacks to fully reset the ability. So as you can see there, 3 light attacks and your the ability is fully reset. Now, understanding how to actually do that and how it's done is the first thing you need to understand is the rapier basic attack chain. So it is a thrust into a double swipe, and then as you saw, after that double swipe, your evade is off cooldown. Now, the thing about this is you can cancel evade into a light attack like so. So that first attack out of evade counts as your first attack, and then immediately after that the double swipe occurs. Every time I try to explain this, it sounds more confusing than it actually is. The best way that I can kind of explain it to you or show it to you, and what I really recommend doing, is actually coming to a training dummy to really feel it for yourself. It's really just this cadence here. So after my double swipe start, I'm not clicking anything else. I'm simply waiting for my double swipes to finish and then pressing evade once my double swipes finish. And I'm literally going to stop talking for a second I want you to actually just listen to the hits. Listen to this cadence, because it's always going to be the same cadence, the same rhythm, no matter what situation you're in. This is kind of how you are going to be end up using this combo or achieving damage with it. So if you can get that down in your head, drill it in until it literally can come out like it's nothing, that will be the thing that stems into everything else. And going into the second thing that I kind of mentioned, how do you actually practice this and practice PvP in general? It isn't with training dummies. The way to actually do that, in my opinion, is through PvE. So a lot of people have asked me, do I run different PvE setups when I'm leveling up or when I'm doing PvE? And I always say no. I've always run the same throughout my entire time at MMOs, the same PvP setup while I'm PvPing, or PvEing, excuse me. And the reason for that is while I'm leveling up and killing mobs, I'm literally practicing my combos and trying to get all of these things down in muscle memory while I'm PvEing. And that is truly how you utilize your time efficiently, because I'm sure you noticed, if you've played this game for any amount of time, unless you sit there and queue for OPR or arenas, getting consistent PvP is not something that is really feasible. It kind of happens randomly throughout your play session. So the thing that I would highly recommend you're doing, whether you're pre-50 or pre-60 or for level 60, any of these POIs that are not an elite zone like this one are all, for the most part, soloable if you take it slow and go at your pace. While I was leveling, any of these POIs here that you will most likely get quests to and have to visit as you're playing through the game are all places that while I was leveling, I would have my PvP build on and literally be practicing the timing for everything. And I'm trying to not look at the specific areas that I'm talking about here. It's literally any POI in the game while you're leveling that you can do solo. Usually, which is the case for most MMOs, you most of the time can't pick up anything or get better at PvP through any means of PvE. And that's usually because of how different the two modes are. But the beautiful thing about New World and its combat is how similar those two things are in both the modes in this game. The really big thing that you can pick up and learn from PvE in this game is timing. The timing of your combos, the timing of dodges, when to dodge abilities and attacks. A lot of that stuff for the majority of the better players in PvP is really a thing of muscle memory. I can guarantee you that nobody is thinking about when they actually dodge, when they use most of their attacks, or how they use their combos. At this point, for anybody who's been playing the game for this long, it all is muscle memory. And as you can see by the footage in the background here, the way that I fight PvE mobs when I'm soloing is the same way that I would be fighting as if I was in a PvP situation. And the reason for that is because, like I mentioned, I'm trying to build up that muscle memory. I know that I use rapier and we are talking about rapier combos, but the thing that we're talking about today literally applies to any weapon or any build in the game. Whether you're trying to really nail down that roll dodge into volt kick timing, or trying to really nail down and understand when exactly and what situations you can use your shield bastion, all of that muscle memory and timing is truly built up through PvE, because this is when you get the most time in actually just trying to drill down and train that one skill, instead of trying to worry about all the different things we have to worry about in PvP. The funny thing is, I actually ended up running into some players here while I was farming And you're literally going to see the transition from how I'm fighting. It's going to seem as if I've been PvPing the whole time. There is no change in how I'm fighting and what my combos are, because as I mentioned, I've been trying to build up that muscle memory my entire time playing through PvE, so that the few times that I do find a situation like this and we find some PvP, I'm not trying to learn my combos and practice anything then. That is really the whole point and the whole goal of what I'm trying to get across today. You can really truly use PvE to train yourself and at least get down your half of the battle, which is learning what you need to do, so that when it comes to thinking about what the enemy is doing, everything that you need to do kind of comes out and is muscle memory. But I do want to kind of go over 3 different fights here, just kind of nail down the evade reset thing. We're going to take a look at 3 different fights on 3 different builds, because as I mentioned, the combos and how I use them all is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the core, the evade reset, is really how we get our damage. So taking a look at the first fight here on our rapier and fire staff. The first fight is going to be against a sword and shield and greatsword player in heavy armor, and we are on the best possible build for this. We have the most mobility against the one of the least mobile setups, so that is going to be the thing that I'm taking advantage of, is my mobility. But we're going to go ahead and see if we can chase him down and just start the fight here. The thing you want to watch out for with sword and shield is the leaping strike into the shield bash, and as soon as I get that out of the way, you see I go in for a bunch of evade resets, and then he gets a nice stagger, but we followed up with the flash and try to go in for a couple of them more. I try to get a cheeky incinerate there, but he does a good job of spacing it out. We get a nice guard break on his calamity though, and then we again just use our flash, try to go in for some evade resets. He is swinging around that greatsword though, so I want to be a little bit careful to not get clocked by too much damage, so I go for an incinerate just to break up the momentum there. But we do manage to land a nice little parry, get in a little bit of damage, get a nice little evade on the damage there, and then again just going in for an evade reset where I can. I try to go in for a nice incinerate there. He gets a shield bash this time, but we get a cheeky little CC break there just to go and break up his timing and get a kill there. But really taking advantage of the fact that we have more mobility than he does, as I mentioned. But every single time that I was getting in damage there with my rapier, it was with that evade reset. As I mentioned, we would jump in, do our little 1 2 3, jump out. If we have time, you essentially attack with as much time as you have. You saw in the initial part of that fight there, I went for as many evade resets as he would allow me to do. And if he didn't stagger me with that steadfast strike, I would have just literally kept on evade resetting until something stopped me from doing it. But the other part that I want you to take notice of as well is kind of how I'm doing my combos, or how I'm committing to them. You will never see a side swipe come out unless I'm going for a full combo. It's either I go in for an evade poke and then we jump back out, or it's a full evade reset. There's literally no in between. And that's one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make a lot of the time. You really should never ever whiff your middle swipes if you've landed the first attack. And he jumps back on us here. You're going to see what I mean. With him being a little bit more aware of what we can do in this fight, we're going to have way less opportunities to land that evade reset. But regardless, we're still able to get in damage where we can. We get in a nice little reset right there. It is while his fortify is up, so we don't get too much damage in. He does jump on us, and we try to create a little bit of space with the incinerate, but a lot of the damage so far has been done with our fire staff. I try to go in for a little poke there. We dodge the shield bash. Again, I try to go in for another little poke, but no middle swipe committal there. And it's really kind of me just going in for pokes here and there, and then jumping back out into my fire staff. I'm really just trying to space out, and although I am trying to go for those resets, he's not letting me get them. So as I mentioned, it's either we go all in or we don't commit. It's just going to be a poke and then jump out. But nice little fight with the rapier fire staff there. Taking a look at a fight with our Ice Gauntlet though, same fundamentals are gonna apply here. You see I'm gonna kind of start out with a little poke and then see what he does, and then go in for another poke and get a little bit of distance with our evade, but not really commit to anything until we see our opening. Another little poke there into our riposte, gets a nice little grab well on us there, but we make our way out with our flush, land a nice little spike and put in another good amount of damage with a poke there, but then we jump into our tomb just to negate that pressure. Put in a lot of damage on him, but so far I haven't really committed to any full evade combos. Riposte still not really working there, and we're trading some damage back and forth, but we get a nice evade reset. And for the first time in the fight, the only time in the fight that I go for a full evade reset is when it mattered. You see I get a really nice iframe dodge on that reap there with our evade, and then we follow that up with our full combo. And I think that was a really good fight to kind of illustrate what I mean by it's either all in or nothing. I didn't commit to a full evade reset that whole fight until I saw an opening too, and the one time it did, we found our kill. So a really nice fight again to kind of show what I'm kind of trying to get across here with the rapier. And then last but not least, we have another fight with our blood setup. And although different from our grace setup, the fundamentals are still going to apply. So as I mentioned with sword and shield, we're going to watch out for that leaping strike, get a beautiful evade to not only dodge the stagger from the strike, but space out that shield bash. We're going for a Tondo, get a nice little double poke with the evade, and then go in for a flourishing finish, and would have finished out the fight there, but the hatchet does save their life. Do a really good job of keeping up with that net shot as we jump over the wall here, and just trying to keep up that pressure. See if I can land a Tondo here to get the stagger, but we actually miss and then get caught with a pretty nice shield bash. But I'm just going to go ahead and follow up with the blunderbuss, continue that pressure even though we're not in melee range, get a nice dodge to proc our shirking lightning, go in for a poke, and again don't commit because I don't really see an opportunity there to go for an evade reset. Get another poke into a Tondo and finish them off there. And I know that the question might seem or might come up, how do you know when and when not to commit to a full evade reset and when not to? And that is just something that comes with time. Once you build up that muscle memory for the full evade combo, then you will know what situations and which ones not to commit to it in fights. And it's really as simple as do I want to commit to a full combo? And the reason why this is so strong is because you get a really large amount of damage on just that initial poke because of the damage buff you get from evade. So whether or not you go for a poke and then disengage or a full combo, you're still doing a noticeable amount of damage over the course of a fight. But I hope that was helpful. As always though, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.